Joining me now is a UFC heavyweight contender who was in attendance this past weekend in Las Vegas at UFC 226 to see Stipe Miocic, at the time the UFC heavyweight champion, fall to new king Daniel Cormier via first-round knockout. He was also, of course, there to see two fellow heavyweight contenders, Francis Ngannou and Derek Lewis, do battle in the pay-per-view co-main event. It is Curtis "Razor Blaydes" back on the program. Curtis, how are you?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing very good. It was good meeting you last week, and we have a lot to talk about. It hasn't been all that long, but a lot has happened since we last spoke back Thursday of last week. That, begins with Brock Lesnar. Before we talk about that, I want to get your thoughts on the main event. You, of course, told me about a month ago after the Overeem knockout win for you that you thought Stipe would beat DC. How surprised were you that it went the other way?
I mean, I wasn't as surprised because, honestly, that's a fight I wouldn't have placed a bet on because it could have gone either way. Like, I'm not surprised, but I'm surprised at how it happened.
Right.
How early it happened in the fight, and just how he was able to use his underhooks and dirty boxing so effectively. I thought that Stipe would make use of his jab a lot better. And I feel like he was early on, but then somehow DC was just able to close the distance. And, yeah, you know what happened. Yeah.
A lot of people said, mostly after the fight in hindsight, that it looked like Cormier's power increased with the weight, putting on 40 pounds, and not really putting the 40 pounds on, but just not cutting weight. Did you notice that as well? Did DC seem more powerful than he did at 205?
I mean, it's hard to tell because I'm not the one who got punched, but obviously he must be stronger because I wouldn't say Stipe has the greatest jaw ever, but is adequate. I didn't think he'd be able to get rocked like that just off a short hook. So
as the number 2 heavyweight contender yourself, is it kind of odd seeing DC as the new champion? Because 6 months ago he wouldn't have been on your radar whatsoever as the 205-pound champion. He's just another champion in the UFC. Now you're technically going after him. He has what you want. Is that kind of weird that he just? I mean, it makes sense. It's not like this fight didn't make sense, but it's kind of odd how he sort of just comes in out of nowhere.
No, it's with the whole the super fight movement we've got going on in the UFC. I kind of expected it because I knew he only had a few more fights left in his body, and it only made sense. And I had no issue with that because I figured I would get to fight the winner, regardless of whether it was DC or Stipe. Like, it wasn't a problem for me. The problem was Brock Lesnar.
Right. So when you go down to Las Vegas about a week ago, we're talking on the Tuesday, July 10th, just a few days after this fight, had you been given any indication, or up until the event last Saturday, were you given any indication that you were next for the winner?
I wasn't given any indication either way. I wasn't told I wasn't getting the winner. I wasn't told I was. So I didn't. I acted as if I was going to get it.
Yeah. I guess on your point, was your expectation was that, hey, fingers are crossed, but it seems likely that, win or lose for DC or Stipe, I'll fight the winner? Yeah,
I figured that. It was logical to me.
Right. What did you make real quick of Alexander Volkov weighing in? I don't know if you were at the early weigh-ins on Friday, but he actually weighed in as a potential replacement, just as in the off chance Stipe gets hurt or DC gets hurt or sick or something happens, Volkov would fill in. Now I know you're injured, so you couldn't really take the fight, but is it?
It made sense. I figured they did it because I was injured, which I had a problem with because he's healthy. I'm not. Everything was all right. The only issue I have is Brock Lesnar. I have no issue with anything else.
So the UFC 226 co-main event happens. Derek Lewis beats Francis Ngannou in a pretty boring fight. Maybe not pretty boring, in a very boring fight. It was not fun whatsoever. You tweeted out right after that, thank you, Ngannou and Lewis, for confirming, for giving me the number one contender spot for sure. Because had Ngannou win, maybe he would get it. He does have a win over you back in 2016. If Lewis wins, Ngannou was ranked number one, maybe he gets it. But with it being such a bad fight, it seemed clear at the time that, hey, it can't be one of them, so it just sort of clears the way for you. What was going through your head at that time? You must have just been even more confident.
What would you say? I'm sorry.
Just what was going through your head after that fight? Sort of expand on your tweet after the fight, thinking, now the title shot is for sure mine.
It was just an awful fight. Either one of them wanted to pull the trigger, besides Derek Lewis tossing out wild body kicks that he knew weren't going to land. I didn't get either one of the strategies. They both turned into counter strikers. And at one point, I don't know if you remember this, but I definitely do. Ngannou took a shot, which I thought was hilarious.
Like you mean Lewis stunned him a little bit?
No. No, I mean like Ngannou attempted to wrestle.
Oh, I see. He went for a takedown. Okay, yeah. I don't remember that, but yeah.
Definitely remember it. It blew my mind.
That is odd. But at that time, you just thought, they're just clearing the way for me.
Yeah.
And then the unthinkable happens. And then not only does Daniel Cormier beat Stipe Miocic, something, in first-round knockout fashion, something no one saw coming, then Brock Lesnar comes out. What was going through your mind the second you saw Lesnar?
I was angry, upset. I felt disrespected.
Could you believe it?
I mean, I get it. It's CM Punk all over again. It's just about the money. I get it. But just because I get it, just because I understand it, it doesn't mean I agree with it. It doesn't mean I like it.
Have you been able to process this? Now, I mean, it seems like, Lesnar's not going to be ready till January. So unless you want to sit out till this time next year, it seems likely you'll need to take another fight, closer to the end of the year when you're recovered, maybe against Volkov. Had it not been for Lesnar, you would most likely get a title shot. This must be difficult to process.
No, I'm very logical. There's nothing I can do about it. I've accepted it. I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. There's nothing I can do. It is what it is. It sucks, but hey, it's life.
You've been quite vocal about this on Twitter. I've seen you've responded to a lot of fans. You've been very active, probably more active than I've ever seen you on Twitter. Why is that? Do you just want to get your message out? And why exactly are you responding to all these fans, some of which are I guess not criticizing you, but not totally in agreement with you?
Because it's just like, I don't see how they can defend Brock Lesnar. It's as if they totally overlook the fact that he's 40 or maybe 40 plus, which means he's going to have zero quick twitch movement. So how's he going to get a takedown? B, he hasn't had a win in the UFC in 8 years. And C, he's a repeated PED user. And then people, when I bring up the PEDs, they like to counter with, well, he was only caught once. I'm like, okay, so use your common sense, be an adult. Do you really think he's fought clean the majority of his fights? And they're like, well, it wasn't proven. So then it's just a lot of ignorance out there. It's a lot. And when I see ignorance, I try to educate, because I don't want to argue with it. I just want to prove, I want you to prove to me how you're right. I want you to give me a strong case, and then they don't. But they still want to say I'm undeserving of the title shot. It doesn't make any sense to me.
You're a nice guy. I mean, from all of my interactions with you, it seems like you're a tough guy to anger. Does that just show sort of, how frustrating this situation with Lesnar getting the title shot over you is?
Yeah, because people don't get, like, this isn't a game. Like, this is my livelihood. Like, every extra fight I have to take before getting the belt is another potential, like, career-ending injury, So, like, the name of the game is to get to the belt as fast as possible. And had Lesnar not been here, I have a pretty good shot of getting the title shot before my birthday, which is, I was really my plan. At the beginning of this year, I made a plan, and that was my plan. It's just like, who is he to just jump? And another thing, I don't get why people want to see him fight so bad, because, like, he's not a good fighter. Like, it's not like he has good hands. He doesn't have a good jab. He doesn't. And people say, I do lay and pray. Brock Lesnar does not have grounding power. Like, when he fought Mark Hunt, he literally laid and prayed. It's just, so I'm like, this is the guy that we've already seen the best of him. He will not be any better than what he was in 2009 or 2010. He won't be any better than that Brock Lesnar. So we've already seen him at his best. And you still want to see him in there? I'm like, why? You like his muscles? Is that why you guys want to see? Because he has really big arms? I don't. You like his tattoos? Do I need better tattoos? I don't know. So.
I'm curious, whether either right now or in the past, growing up, have you ever been a fan of pro wrestling?
No.
No? It's never been your thing?
It's a joke.
I tend to agree. I can say that because I don't cover WWE or anything. I don't like it either. So, objectively, say you had nothing to do with DC versus Stipe, DC versus Lesnar. Say you were a lightweight fighter going after Khabib. You had nothing to do with DC, Stipe, Lesnar, anything. Just objectively, did you enjoy the Lesnar thing, confronting DC, all that at all?
I think it's a joke because we all know it's acting. It's like, Why do we want to see act? The best thing about sports is that it's real. It's real emotions. It's real sadness when guys lose. It's real adrenaline. It's real happiness when guys win. But if it's all an act, then what's the point of watching? I'd rather watch TV with better actors, like good actors. Like I never saw. I still don't get how people pay money to go watch pro wrestling. It seems like a waste of money to me. I'd rather go to the circus. At least that's skill sets.
Have you had a conversation with anyone from the UFC about this yet?
No, not me personally. I have not. But
would you like to, or is there really no point?
Yeah. I mean, I would. There's no point. Their minds are made up. They can already hear the casuals swelling and panting about their hero, Brock Lesnar. That's just money, and they want it. So, and they have the resources to get it, and they're going to do it. So there's nothing I can do about it.
Cormier said after he beat Miocic last Saturday at the post-fight press conference at the T-Mobile Arena that there's only a few fighters he's willing to fight. He wants the big money fights because considering he is retiring in March, he said he'll fight Brock Lesnar, he'd fight Stipe in a rematch, he'd do the trilogy with Jones, he'd maybe fight Gustafsson if Alex did something spectacular in his next fight. And then he mentioned on Monday on Ariel Helwani's show that Shogun Hu is actually a light heavyweight title defense he'd be interested in, but he said no, he wouldn't fight you, he wouldn't fight Volkov, none of those people. Does that make you just really, look forward to the day DC retires? So he's sort of, no longer holding up the division in a way?
Yeah, that's for sure what he is. As a champion, you should fight the best. You don't fight a bum because he has a good. That's what Brock Lesnar is in terms of MMA. He is a bum. If you have the belt, you fight the best because that's what the fans deserve. It deserves to see you getting pushed to an extreme that brings out the best in you. Like, we don't want to see a blowout. That's what it's going to be. Like, if this were a football game, it would be 45-0 at halftime. Like,
can you blame Lesnar in this situation, though? I mean, he's just a guy. He was offered the fight. Obviously, he sells pay-per-views.
No, he's made his money. He is not broke. I don't care about him. He is holding up my belt. I don't care about Brock. Man, if we did fight, I'd hurt him. Bad.
Who do you fault the most in this situation? Brock, DC, or the UFC for putting the fight together?
DC, because he had the power to just say no.
And then Brock, and then the UFC, because obviously the UFC is going to capitalize on a big fight?
Yeah. I mean, they all have a hand in it.
Right. So what is next for you? Of course, you still have your injury to take care of. You're still recovering for the next month, maybe 2 months or so. Would you be open to the Volkov fight now?
I'm not really ready or at a place right now to make any future decisions or guarantees or anything like that.
Right.
I don't know.
Do you think sitting out until Lesnar DC happens is a possibility?
It is an option. I'm weighing all my options. Like I said, I'm not making any decisions right now because I'm injured anyways. So
right.
What's the point of making a decision?
So immediately, as we talked about last week at the red carpet, it's just getting better and healing. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about what happened over the weekend? Anything else I didn't ask you about that you want to get off your chest, or do you think we mostly covered it?
Yeah. If there's anything we missed, you can just go to my Twitter or my Instagram. It's all.
For sure. Curtis, thanks again. Really appreciate you taking the time. It's always great catching up with you. Hopefully you do get the title shot sooner than later. You definitely deserve it. Before I let you go, remind my audience where they can find you on social media. So, again, as you said, if we miss anything, they can check out your social media. And if there's anybody you'd like to thank or give a shout out to, the floor is yours.
You can find me on my Twitter and my Instagram at RazorBlades265. RazorBlades265. And I'd like to give a shout out to my striking coach, Benny Lopez, my jiu-jitsu coach, Cody Donovan, my sponsors, Laura's Lane Beef, Body Armor, Iowa Bison Meat, Reception MMA for their CBD products, and that's it.